I've been meaning to get around to this one for a little while. This is a bottle of Laphroaig. You can tell because it says Laphroaig on the label, or Laphroaig, as I once had it requested, which is very good. It's very French, but it will not get you a whiskey if you ask for that at a bar. This is the 10-year-old, but it's not just any old 10-year-old. This is a 10-year-old that I was finally convinced to buy by Whiskey Wednesday, actually. Phil over there, and that name will be coming up again in a few videos' time, so stick around for that. This was something that I was quite giddy to get my hands on. And then I kind of held back a little bit because when it first launched, I was like, ooh, that ticks a lot of boxes for me. It's Laphroaig, it's PC whiskey, it's got a sherry component. It was a £60 price tag, so I was like, I'm going to hold off. I'm going to see what other people think of it first, because I was curious. I was like, this could go one of two ways. Either I'm going to adore it, or I'm going to think, So the consensus came in, and the consensus was, buy this now. So I did. I was actually chumming a colleague who's now gone back to Canada. She was looking to buy a load of whiskey for taking back to Canada. I'm not sure if she got stopped at customs in the end, because we may have gone a little bit overboard. But whilst I was in there, I asked if they had a Sauterne finished Dalyun, and they didn't, so I grabbed this instead. Still want to get my hands on that at some point. It's probably the whiskey I'm thinking about most at the moment, which is weird. But anyway, I'm a sucker for Sauterne finishes. This is the Laphroaig 10 Sherry Oak finish. It doesn't specifically mention which sherry oaks are used, I don't believe. Oh no, I beg your pardon, it does. There's a lot of writing. I had it in my head, I was like, I'm pretty sure it's Oloroso, but I don't know if I'm confusing that with something else. Indeed, aromatic flavours of the Oloroso sherry casks. Oloroso. So, we can't really talk about Laphroaig at the minute without talking about John Campbell. You might be thinking, who the hell's John Campbell? And if you are thinking that, then okay, cool, let's get you caught up. John Campbell, up until recently, was each distillery has a slightly different name for this, distillery manager, I think is what they call it at Laphroaig, of Laphroaig. And he held that job for 16 years. He was the longest serving in that capacity, and he was the first native Islaman, I believe. He'd been with the distillery for about 27 years overall, started as a lobster fisherman, and he's just, basically, he's sort of, I don't want to say a legend of the distillery, but kind of a legend at the distillery. It was big news in the whiskey world when the news broke about a month ago now that he was going to be leaving Laphroaig. Everyone was like, what? It's kind of the... It's not quite the whiskey equivalent of the Queen dying, but it's, you know, it's still big news. You know, everyone was talking about it. Update on that one. He basically was leaving the distillery due to the pandemic. There was nothing wrong with the distillery itself, but it is a remote location. And he wanted to be nearer his family on the mainland, so he has moved over to a distillery called Laphroaig. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. If I am not, then I've screwed up a two-syllable name, which, go me. But they are a brand new distillery, so if you've not heard of them, then that's why. And their first outrun should be coming in 2022. So if we want to see what he's doing with the distillery, we're going to have to wait a little bit longer, because obviously he's just started in that capacity, so we're going to have to wait about 3 years. At least, before we see, sort of from birth to death. You know, obviously he'll have some kind of input in sort of, I would imagine, cask selections and blending and that kind of a thing. But it's a hell of a steal for Laphroaig. I'd imagine they could not believe their luck when he was like, yeah, I'll take the gig. But that's happening quite a bit with new distilleries. They're getting some genuine raw talent on board, so it's interesting times. But yeah, back to Laphroaig itself. So, many people have been raving about this, and as you can see, I mean, I did take this into work a few weekends ago because we were going to have quite a bad Saturday. Most Saturdays are bad at the minute, but a particularly bad Saturday, so I offered this up as a sacrificial element. Actually, last Saturday I offered up my Bladnoch Vinaya, which, if you haven't seen the video or live stream that I did with Swedish Whiskey Girl, there'll be links, and I took it along and I was like, hey, help yourselves to this, and 2 days later I found it was on the shelves. I was like, that cheeky bastard, he's trying to sell my whiskey. But anyway, that's by the by. This is a beautiful coloured whiskey. Oh, and there is a cat at the window. Pardon me. Oh, come here, Mohammed. I require your olfactory opinion. Are you up for this? Yeah? Good. Now then, I don't know how you feel about peated whiskey. Give that a nose. Oh. No, I forgot you're more of a Lowland fan. Sorry about that, Mo. Sorry. Animal abuse right here. Right, cool. So, it's a gorgeous colour on it. I don't really have any details in regards to colour and filtration. Again, as always, I will update on my scorecard. I've got a lot of videos to get through tonight. I need to do a Patreon update as well. Incidentally, if you're interested in supporting the channel, let's just get this out of the way now. There'll be links down to my Patreon, or you can join the channel as a channel member, and you get to use an emoji of Mo. So that's all the incentive I can think of, really. The rest of it's just shite, but you know, emoji of Mo. There you go. Also, it helps support the channel, but the emoji, come on. That's a beautifully cold whiskey. Let's get past this. Let's go on to the nose, because that's where we really start to get something interesting happening. We've got, there's still that kind of TCP sticking plasters kind of a thing. Duh, there's the medicinal whack of Laphroaig. It's very classically Laphroaig in that respect, but there's a wonderful element of like chestnuts, brown sugar. There's a wonderful kind of like sour cherry. That's what I've been getting off of this, kind of sour cherry, ripe raspberries. It's not a particularly classic sherry profile on the nose. It's brighter, it's more summer fruits, which is bonkers, but it works. Yeah, it's like you just opened a punnet of raspberries. And you, I don't know, had a glass of Laphroaig to hand as well, because... Do you know, actually, kidding aside, there was a thing a couple of years ago. Beam Suntory were trying to promote Laphroaig using their Opinions Welcome campaign, and I was working at a bar on St Andrew Square at the time, and we hosted a night with them, and they did some cocktails, and one of them was a French martini with Laphroaig. And you know what? It's split opinion, but I think Laphroaig and raspberry actually works quite nicely together. But again, it's a very Marmite thing. It's not going to be for everyone. Let's quickly check this hasn't cut out. Still going. It's flashing, however. Ooh. Right, so, wonderful fruity nose. The taste, however, there's a lot going on. It's like you have salted caramel ice cream with like a raspberry coulis on top. There's bucket loads of smoke, plenty of iodine, plenty of peat. Maybe 20 minutes ago you were gargling with TCP and now you're trying to get it out of your system by eating raspberry sorbet. That's the kind of experience that you're kind of getting off the first sip. There's a delightful sweetness. It's not a cloying sweetness, but it's kind of like a natural, slightly honey. It's trying to kill me. Honeyed. Again, raspberry, a little bit of blackberry, a little bit of strawberry. It's got this summer fruits element to it, which is really not classic sherry cask. You know, normally you're talking Christmas cake, plums, raisins, apricots, that kind of a thing. But this doesn't have that. There's something about the marrying of Oloroso and Laphroaig that turns it into summer fruits. And I'm here for it. It's super fresh and fruity. It's lovely. It's bizarrely light. In that, like, I don't want to call it a summer whiskey because the peat does kind of drag it back into kind of like that drinking a whiskey by the fireside sort of a thing. And obviously, I'm a big fan of peat. So who's Pete? I'm always going to be a little bit skewed on that one. If I gave this to somebody as their first dram, they're either going to love it or hate it, because, I mean, I've done a lot in my professional life as a bar manager, introducing people to whiskies, and what you normally do is you start off with something quite easygoing, like a a Glenkinchie, a Glenfiddich, other Glens are available. And then you guide them through it, you go kind of like, okay, this is how you get past the burn, and this is how you get some flavour out of it. And they were like, I don't know, maybe this isn't for me. And then if you get that, then you might have one of the 10% that really just like being hit in the face with a shovel of peat. It happens, and it's fun to see, because you kind of unlock a world for them that they had no idea existed. They're the kind of kids that like snuck out to bonfires during summer parties and stuff like that. That's that kind of a igniting memories, for want of a better way of putting it. I'm going to stick some water in this now. Oh, I should mention, this is 48%. I'm great at this. I'm so fucking good at this, aren't I? I can't remember what I'm doing. I get the cat to smell the whiskey. He'll be shitting on the carpet by now. When you add water, the summer fruits go to sleep, and it's much more classically Laphroaig. Peat, iodine, TCP. There's a little bit of that like burnt rubber element that I've been talking about with like Ardbegs, particularly with Ardbeg 10. If you've not seen my review of that, hopefully I'll remember to put a card. If not, it's somewhere. It's much more classically Isla, for want of a better way of putting it. As soon as you add water to it, it's almost like it gets rid of that layer of fruit. And to nose it, you could almost just be like nosing a standard 10-year-old. Albeit a 10-year-old that, with that kind of dilution, probably still talking about 46%. I don't have that stick that you dip in it to measure the alcohol. Booze stick, that's probably what it's called. That's the name, right? Booze stick? Yep, not boobs stick, booze stick. Can you understand me? I can't understand myself at this stage. Let's see what it tastes like. So I've gotten over my sore throat from last week, so I don't sound as hot anymore. Loads of people at my work now ask where I'm from, so I get them to guess. No one's got a Manchester yet. Though, fun fact, I had a table here and a table here. The table here were like, where are you from? And I was like, guess. And they were like, I'm guessing like southwest somewhere. And then I told them Manchester. And then the table here were like, where in Manchester? I was like, Stockport. They're like, where in Stockport? Bredbury. They're like, where in Bredbury? I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Surely not. And it turns out they had literally were round the corner from where I lived, basically. Or grew up, I should say. So that was a weird coincidence that happened to me this weekend. No Karens this weekend. That's been a first, and I'm here for it, because I mean this weekend was a bloodbath in many other respects, but no Karens, so that's good. Guess whose battery died? This is probably why this is slightly framed differently, and probably out of focus. Anyway, so we were getting to know this whiskey, this beautiful thing. It's been sitting for a while now because obviously I've had to wait for the battery to get a bit of juice back in it. So we were tasting this with water, weren't we? That's where we were up to about 8 years ago now. Yeah, so the summer fruits thing has completely gone away. Iodine, smoke, a little bit of rubber in there, and there's like an orange oil kind of an element to it as well. It's subtle, but there is kind of like a bright citrusy component to it, which is really nice. So it's swapped out one fruit for the other almost. But hey, I like a fruity whiskey, so I don't have an objection to this. I also really like a smoky whiskey, and this is a banging one, so we're doing pretty well. I'm having a great time. I don't know about the rest of you, but I'm having a swell old time of it. Lovely, yeah. Rich, a little bit biscuity. There's like maybe a hint of vanilla in there, like a bourbon vanilla. But yeah, it's a delightful, peaty, smoky, slightly saline, citrusy kind of a whiskey. It's delightful. It's quite a thick mouthfeel. I probably should mention that as well. It's quite a chewy whiskey. It's got a bit of bite to it. People watching this who have never watched whiskey, well, never had whiskey before, will be like, what are you on about? It's a liquid. And it does, a lot of the terminology that we use when we're talking about whiskey do sound like bollocks. And there are plenty of people that, just wing it and make it up. But it does. It has a, I'm trying to describe the difference. It's kind of like the difference between skimmed milk and like the Jersey cream stuff with the gold cap. Does that make sense? That's where I'm trying to meet you in the middle on this voyage of verbal diarrhea that is my channel. There we go, that should be my tagline. Voyage of verbal diarrhea. And watch the subscriber count plummet. Or go up, possibly, but there'd be some interesting people, I'm sure. Couldn't wait for the comments on that one. It's delightful, it's rich, it's comforting, it's warming, it's still got that bite to it. It's a little, do you know what? It's reminding me a little bit of like a very rich, like a very, very dark chocolate, like a 90% chocolate bar. It's got that kind of bitter edge to it. And I'm here for it, I dig it. Because I mean, I will just get a bar of like 90% chocolate and just chow down on that. I'm a freak, I know, but I like it. I like it. But anyway, that is Laphroaig. Let me know down below. What do you make of Laphroaig's releases? Like, not just the 10-year-old, you know, we're talking the Law, the Triple Cask, the Select. Yeah, let's talk about Select. Why not? Let's have a bit of fun with that one. Has anyone tried the various wine finishers? Cerdus? I'm definitely not pronouncing that. It's probably pronounced like Shivas or something. But yeah, those ones. I never said I was an expert. I never pretended to be. I haven't got a fucking clue how you say that. C-A-I-R-D-E-S, however the fuck you pronounce that. Phonetically spell it for me down in the comments, because I'm an imbecile. But for now, I will say thank you very much for watching, and do join me next time, where I'll be drinking something else.